Coming up in today's video, I still believe that the New Orleans Saints have a need at wide receiver. So I'm going to break down a couple of options, both as trades and free agency options, that New Orleans could explore to bring in another pass catcher for Derek Carr. But hey, we're in another like battle. The last time I asked you guys to help me out, we absolutely smoked Falcons today in likes. So we're going for the big bad here at Chat Sports. The Cowboys Report is one of the biggest channels we have here in our Chat Sports umbrella. So let's take down one of their most recent videos that had over 1,100 likes. Can we beat it? You didn't let me down once, so don't let me down now. Hit that thumbs up icon, and let's take down our Week 2 opponents. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Girouard. As always, leading the charge here at Chat Sports for all your black and gold coverage. Now, to kind of set the scene here, I want to show the wide receiver depth chart because I think it's important to add context here. I don't think that the Saints are in dire need of a wide receiver. I want to make that very clear here. I think a lot of people will see the very first graphic that came up on screen and kind of take it out of context. I think that the Saints need to add a wide receiver, but I don't think that it's like oh my God, if they don't, this team is going to be an absolute dumpster fire. I really love Chris Olave. I think A.T. Perry has a lot to prove in year 2, and he's shown some big-time flashes. I really, really like Rashid Shaheed. Bub Means has some really nice abilities as a possible X-receiver option. Equanimous St. Brown, maybe he makes the roster. Said Wilson, I think that he can make the roster. But then there's a couple of UDFAs as well, and Mason Tipton, Jermaine Jackson, and Kyle Sheets that I think are really intriguing options as well. But I want to just say this. I think that New Orleans, in terms of a wide receiver, they don't just need any kind of pass catcher. There's 2 types of players that they could target. One, it's an X receiver, a big body guy that can operate over the middle, line up in the slot, or just be a big physical presence. And the other one is a slot specialist. So who could they target? Let's break it all down. Now, for the first one, what about a former top 20 pick in Treylon Burks? He was a first-round selection by the Tennessee Titans just a handful of years ago in 2022 at number 18 overall. And I do think that this is a player that came out of Arkansas with, a little, not a chip on his shoulder, but not a ton of pressure, and he wasn't put into a really nice situation. And I do think that if he were to come to New Orleans, he would fit the need of the X receiver. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. The guy is a massive human being. And on top of that, he's really, really good at the point of catch. I mean, sure, his production in the NFL has been pretty limited. However, whenever he was at Arkansas, this guy was one of the better pass catchers in the SEC for the Razorbacks. And the Titans have added to their wide receiver room this offseason in Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, and obviously they have DeAndre Hopkins. So maybe Treylon Burks is the odd man out. In terms of the past 2 years, in terms of his production, it's been very, very limited. He actually has 2 career touchdowns, one of which was a receiving touchdown and one of which was a fumble recovery touchdown. So kind of like a weird little thing there, but point being, the stats have been underwhelming. The production has been underwhelming. But like I said, I think a change of scenery could just be really, really helpful for Burks. I think he's still a player that can be that first-round talent and that can have a role in the NFL. I don't think he needs to be a wide receiver 1. I think that if you have him line up as your inline guy or as a slot player or as a X receiver to kind of replace the void that Michael Thomas is leaving since he is a free agent, I think that that could be really, really beneficial, not just for Treylon Burks, but for New Orleans as well. So here's the trade idea that I cooked up. What about sending Treylon Burks, or what about receiving Treylon Burks and a 7th-round pick for a 5th-round selection? I know that it's been underwhelming production, but right now the Saints don't have a 7th-round pick, so you're giving up a 5th-round selection to get a pick back and a wide receiver that has a first-round talent that still is young and that can still make a name for himself in the league. Would you do this trade? Just give me a simple trade or a simple pass in the comment section. I'm going to be spamming my trades. Selfishly, I'm an Arkansas graduate. I'm a two times alum there from the University of Arkansas out in Fayetteville. So obviously I'm going to be a little bit skewed on this. But I do think as a Saints fan, he could also be beneficial to my NFL team, not just my college team. But guys, we're closing in on 28,000 subscribers. Do y'all remember when Adrian Peterson was a part of the Black and Gold? Like, that was so weird. I remember just finding out he signed with the Saints and being like, holy shit, this is the craziest thing ever. Like, we're going to be so good. I was young. I didn't really know what the hell was going on. That was just wild. So if you agree that was wild, go ahead and subscribe today. We're currently at 27,655. We're trying to get to 28K ASAP. So don't do it for me. Don't do it for Adrian Peterson. But what about vintage Mark Ingram? Hit that sub button and lock us in today. Again, that was just so wild that all day was a New Orleans Saint. I just can't believe it. But what about the free agency route? How about a Hunter Renfrow and Derek Carr reunion? Now, this is a storyline, and this is an idea that, quite frankly, gets the hell beat out of it. And quite frankly, I'm sure a lot of you are tired about hearing Hunter Renfrow. But let's talk about it, because at this point in the offseason and at this point with what players are available, Renfrow is one of the more intriguing options. And he is a true slot specialist, and he can really operate from the slot. And quite frankly, I think the Saints could use somebody who isn't just a fast player and can beat somebody down deep, but a really nice route runner and a really nice technician. I think Renfrow could do that for New Orleans. And obviously, there's the familiarity and the chemistry with Derek Carr. That's something that doesn't necessarily need to be mentioned, but the production whenever Hunter Renfrow was with Derek Carr is worth mentioning, and it's pretty damn good. 234 receptions, over 2,500 yards, and 16 touchdowns when they were together out in Las Vegas and with the Raiders, I guess. But the current slot options for players that are on the roster right now, I think any of these three players could make some sense. Rashid Shaheed, obviously, it's kind of like a situational thing for him, but I think if you line him up in the slot, go and just burn him and then just be over the middle and run fast. It's a good option. I do think A.T. Perry could be an interesting idea to try out. Maybe try it in training camp. Maybe give it some run in the preseason or, early in the regular season, see what we can do here. But I do think that A.T. Perry's jump ball ability, his contested catch ability, it is really, really intriguing. But I do think that he might be a better option on the outside. I kind of more so included him because I've seen a lot of people float out the idea of A.T. Perry lining up at the slot. I think it would be an idea to try out, but maybe not be the starting slot receiver. Let him be kind of on the outside and really just dominate and take the top off of the defense. And Bub Means, I actually think that this is a really intriguing option because he could also be your X receiver option. I mean, he's thick, he has a big body, giggity, but on top of that, he also has a really nice skill set, and he has really nice hands, and he's lethal over the middle, and his post route has already been getting a lot of praise at Saints practices. But my biggest fear with Hunter Renfrow specifically, is he washed? Like honestly, is he washed up? Is he bad? Is he just done? Because quite frankly, his production wasn't good last year. But I will also say this, to play devil's advocate, it's not like anything about the Raiders' offense was good last year. They had one game against the Chargers when Brandon Staley was pretty much already fired, and that kind of put the nail in the coffin for him. They put up 60-plus points. Awesome. Congratulations. But he wasn't really utilized that well. The quarterback situation last year was terrible for Las Vegas. So I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Is he washed? Is he not? I mean, feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section because it's kind of a tough read for me. But if you haven't already, I asked you to like this video off the top of the show. If you're still watching, what the hell are you doing? Why haven't you liked the video? Hit the thumbs up icon. We're trying to take down the Cowboys Report, and we're trying to be the most watched and most liked Saints YouTube channel out there. So hit the thumbs up icon, and you'll get more videos recommended on your YouTube page as well. So lastly, I want to talk about a veteran option. I picked this picture 100% intentionally because it's Robert Woods, running all over the Atlanta Falcons. And quite frankly, if there's an opportunity for me to make fun of the Falcons, I'm going to take advantage of it every single time. But let's discuss trading for Robert Woods because I think that he is definitely the odd man out, whereas Treylon Burks may be the odd man out. Robert Woods, he's on the outside looking in if you ask me. Houston, they brought in Stefon Diggs and Ben Skoranek through trades recently, and they already have a loaded wide receiver room. They got Tank Dell, Nico Collins, John Metchie. They have a lot of really good pass catchers. Also, Dalton Schultz on the roster as well. And I do think that Robert Woods could fill in a good role and offer a nice veteran presence for New Orleans. And quite frankly, that is something lacking in the wide receiver depth chart. Outside of Cedric Wilson, it's a pretty young group, and I think having a veteran might make some sense. And there are reports out there that the Detroit Lions have some interest in trading for Robert Woods. So if you want to get this done, you might need to get it done sooner rather than later. But in terms of the production for the veteran, I mean, he's kind of been all over the place. He was with the Texans this past season, 40 receptions, 426 yards, and 1 touchdown. But in 2022, he had 53 receptions, 500-plus yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, these are all things that are, okay, but I don't think we're ever going to get Robert Woods, the level of production he was back in 2020, 2019, 2018, when he was getting close to and eclipsing 1,000 yards. I mean, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since 2019, so obviously he's not going to be that player anymore. But I do think that there's a role for him. His career snap alignments actually, shows that he can play in the slot. Like, if you want him to line up inside, he has the ability to do that. He's very experienced in doing so. He also has a lot of experience lining up out wide, and there is a very, very small percentage of his career snaps where he was blocking or he was in line and whatnot. But I think that if you want a slot option or a versatile veteran, I don't think Robert Woods is a terrible option. I don't think it's a great option, but I don't think it's a terrible idea either. Plus, I think you could get him for super cheap. To be honest, I think that you could go and give him this trade idea for the Houston Texans, Robert Woods for a 6th-round pick. I would have offered a 7th, but New Orleans currently does not have a 7th. Philadelphia actually owns that 7th-round pick from the CJ Gardner-Johnson trade a couple of offseasons ago, which I don't know how we're still talking about that CJ Gardner-Johnson trade. Like, I wish that was just so done, but whatever. Anyway, this is a trade idea. I think that it could be pretty cheap, and I think that you could get it done relatively quickly. But pick a wide receiver for me. Would you rather go with the young buck, the guy who has a lot to prove for a trade in Treylon Burks, the wide receiver in free agency who has some chemistry already established with your current quarterback, or Robert Woods, the veteran who can line up anywhere and can bring a nice presence to your wide receiver group? And I will say this, my final thoughts on today's video. I'm really excited to see what Bub means Kyle Sheets and Mason Tipton are capable of. And also, I couldn't fit his name on the graphic, but Jermaine Jackson too. Especially with the new kickoff rules, especially with how the Saints can build their roster to maximize their offense. I think that there's a lot of really interesting things that can be worked out through, or that can be explored during training camp in the preseason. I want to give some credit to Kyle Sheets and Mason Tipton specifically. Sheets is a 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver. He's extremely athletic, had a 9.44 relative athletic score, a 4.5 40-yard dash, 37-inch vertical, and he had over 70 receptions for over 1,100, almost 1,200 yards last year in 17 touchdowns. I mean, I think that he should at least get an opportunity to try and be a slot option or a wide receiver as well. But then Mason Tipton, 5'10", 179 pounds, a little bit smaller, but the dude ran a 4.33 40-yard dash. And he had 10 touchdowns, 807 yards, and 53 receptions last year. So I think that both of those guys are also really, unique and intriguing UDFA options, not to mention Dallin Holker. But thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.